Hello? Good evening. Good evening. And welcome. My name is Ari Silverstein of NYC Jazz Tour, and I welcome you on behalf of myself, Jean-Pierre Leduc, who unfortunately was unable to get here from Canada today, and the Jazz Foundation, who has been tireless in their support of jazz artists around town and around the world. And we thank Wendy Oxenhorn so much for her support of jazz musicians. I'm not going to speak very long because we'll be here listening to a great program of lovely music throughout the evening. But it's imperative that Wendy, who is now an NEA Jazz Master, for her tireless work in the jazz community, comes up and says a few words regarding Mark and regarding their services to the jazz community. So won't you please welcome Wendy Oxenhorn.
I didn't expect to speak this soon, so I am not prepared, but that's okay. I'm never prepared. So I met Mark at an airport. I'd been hearing about Mark from Francesco for years, and I heard his music played, and I was hoping to meet him one day. And I'm in Amsterdam at the North Sea Festival in a hotel, and there is this grand-looking man with 1,000,000 rings. I hope you all wore your rings in honor of him. And I said, Mark, I said, I've been waiting to meet you. I'm a friend of Francesco's. And he looked at me and he goes, darling, he said, are we in Boston? And I fell in love with him right then. And I also figured he might have needed our help. And I stayed with him for 2 days, and it's been an amazing journey. Mark is, all these great musicians are the true freedom fighters. And the reason we take care of musicians is because I think that they're not great at taking care of themselves, because they're not businessmen, they're artists. And in art, you go with your heart and you go with what you have to do. And they have made our lives. Try to watch The Godfather without music, you know, it doesn't work. Try to get married, try to be in love without music, it doesn't work. Try to get divorced and not commit suicide without music, it doesn't work. So I just wanted to thank Ari so much, and Jean-Pierre, who could not be here. His uncle is in a medical condition and it's an emergency. So let's please thank him. And Russ Danzler, who helped them put this together. And we didn't have anything to do, they did this themselves. And the church, we just want to bless this church for doing this for all the jazz musicians. And I need Mark Murphy's family to stand up for a second. You're the most supportive, wonderful family. We love you. Thank you. And Mark Murphy Jr., don't you sit down. This guy, the Jazz Foundation did a lot of support for many years now. We were able to get Mark into the Actors Home, and what happens is when you own a home, even if it's not worth a lot, if you own a home, Medicaid will not pay, and the nursing home is thousands of dollars a month. So this man bought Mark's house so he went into his own debt buying Mark's house so that he could be in this Actors Home with wonderful people in a beautiful place to spend his later years, which were very tough. And that's because of his nephew, Mark Murphy Jr. And then I just want to thank everyone here who has participated in Mark Chachia, Amy London. I don't want to start naming names, Tessa, because what happens then, you leave someone out and you can't sleep at 4 in the morning. And I just wanted to say that I wrote this because this is just what came to me with Mark. It's nothing profound, it's just what is for how I felt about Mark. Mark Murphy is and will always be bopping, rapping, spoken word scatting on a planet of his own. unreachable, untouchable, unteachable. Few flew as high. Ballads were untouchable. Mark was a bird alone, like Abby, Chet, Nina, and little Jimmy Scott. He was among the ones who lived their truth and was as free as this world allows one to be. One of the greatest abstract expressionist vocalists that ever roamed the earth. And a celebration of life like this is supposed to be for us to give a chance to send him off with our gratitude for the freedom, the grace, the love, and the space that he gave us to fly with him. So thank you all.
Thank you, Wendy. And I want to say, just briefly about Mark. There are artists and there are innovators. There are people that push music forward to places it's never been, and Mark was certainly one of those people. His incorporation of poetry and jazz, Brazilian music in jazz, verse and bebop, his pushing of vocalese to places and scat solos where it's never been before. He was an industry and an art form leader for 50 years. So his artistry was certainly unmatched. I'd like to introduce you to the house trio this evening, the so-called Hanky Panky trio, so named for Hank Jones. Typically that trio is Alex Manazian on piano, Brandy Disterhaft on bass, and Steve Williams on drums. Unfortunately, Steve fell ill and was unable to make it tonight. But in his place, we have Bibo Acevedo. So won't you please welcome our house trio. The Hanky Panky trio is featured on season 2 of Orange is the New Black. They have performed at the Montreal Jazz Festival. And our first singer today doesn't probably need an introduction for many of you, but she's doing a song that was very important in Mark's early career, written by Steve Allen, and Steve Allen certainly gave Mark a big push early on in his career. So here is Nancy Kelly presenting This Could Be the Start of Something Big. Mark Murphy said of Nancy, she is the Nita O'Day of today. Wow. And John Gilbert of Enu said, if swing was gold, Nancy would be the richest woman on earth.
That means I can go home.
Nancy Kelly.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Walking along the street, you're at a party, or else you're alone, and then suddenly dig, you're looking in someone's eyes, you sadly realize this could be the start of something big. You're lunching at 21, watching your diet, declining that rich French food, accepting a big, went out of the clear blue sky, it's sadly gal and guy, and this could be the start of something big. There's no controlling the unrolling of the fate, my friend, what's written in that magic book? When a lover you discover at the gate, my friend, just let him in without a second look. You're up in an aeroplane, dining at Sardi's, or lying on Malibu, alone in the sand. You suddenly hear a bell, right away you can't tell. This could be the start of something great. because the hour is late. Suddenly there you go. Very next thing you know, this could be the start of something great. You're having a snowball fight, picking up daisies. You're singing a happy tune, knocking on wood. When all of a sudden you look up and there's someone new. This could be the start of something good. A destined lover you discover in a frightening flash. So keep your heart awake both night and day, because the meeting may be fleeting as a lightning flash. Let's face it, baby, you don't want to let it slip away. You're watching the sun come up, counting your money, or else in a dim cafe ordering wine. Suddenly there he is. You want to be where he is. This could be the start of something. Yeah, I want to be a part of something. This could be the start of something big. Thank you.
Nancy Kelly. I want to also mention Itamar Barachoff on the trumpet. Let's give it up. Next, I'd like to welcome to the speaker stand a man who probably needs no introduction to many of you, but he'll get one anyway. His books include Jazz Singing, America's Great Voices from Bessie Smith to Bebop and Beyond Sinatra. The Song Is You, A Singer's Art. Please welcome Will Friedwald.
Ari's wrong. I am a man who needs an introduction. It is now post time. I was reflecting on the phrase famous last words, and of course the most famous last words in all of American literature practically are, "So in America when the sun goes down and I sit on the old broken down river pier." I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you all know what I'm quoting. And my dear friend Jim Gavin, it says on our cheat sheet that Jim is going to talk about Mark and his relationship to the world of the beatniks and the hip and Kerouac, so I'm going to save that for Jim. But I keep thinking about the phrase famous last words, and of course when Mark died, that was the track that I had to play over and over. It was the last track on Bop for Kerouac, where he starts with the ending of On the Road and goes into All the Sad Young Men. And what I love about that is the way that Mark connects Jack Kerouac to F. Scott Fitzgerald, because even though Fitzgerald didn't write that song, it's based on the title of one of his books. So he's connecting two great figures in literature right just like that. And of course, the other most famous ending in all of American literature is the end of The Great Gatsby. So it's an interesting time to think about endings. Mark was like that. Mark was a guy that connected things, things that where you wouldn't see any apparent connection. Yeah, I keep looking over there too. It's kind of I've never seen a memorial service where they had multimedia like this before. It's kind of like death by Instagram. But it's amazing, though, the way that Mark brought it all together. I don't know if it's appropriate to quote the Pope in a Lutheran church, but I keep thinking that Mark was a man who built bridges rather than walls. But I love the way he said that line. Whenever I reread the end of On the Road, it never makes as much sense as when Mark reads it. I especially love that line, "Don't you know God is Pooh Bear?" When Mark said that, it made perfect sense. And it was so Mark. It was profound and absurd. It was poetic and lyrical and silly. It was literary and lunatic. It was just like Mark. It was all those things that Mark is and was. And Mark had this way of bringing together all these disparate feelings into his work and into his life and into his relationships in a way like nobody else I've ever known. I remember, since Wendy went and mentioned the D word, I remember after my first divorce, I wish I could say it was my only divorce, but I remember I ran into him and I was emotionally distraught. I didn't run into him, I went to hear him sing. Afterwards, and he could tell I was distraught, afterwards he walks up to me and says, "Hey, Friedwald, you're looking great now that you're not getting any." Am I allowed to say that in church? And for about 60 seconds I was really hurt. And after 70 seconds, I started laughing. And I was like, "Gosh darn you, Murphy, you got me to laugh at my own pain." And that was just so Mark. That was the way he was. He just sort of, undercut, whatever bad emotion you were feeling by addressing it and meeting head on and diffusing it. He was a remarkable soul, a remarkable individual. The phrase that I coined for him many, many years ago, he was a hipster with heart. And he was probably the greatest at doing that. I do not remember the rings that Wendy spoke of. What I do remember was the hair, that incredible hair. It's probably up there now. In fact, he always promised me that I could have his hair when he died. And I'm still waiting to deliver. I'm still waiting for that to come through. But Mark was, like I say, an amazing artist, a great friend. Other people will speak at that at length. I'm very honored to be here and very honored to be remembering Mark and his dear friend Cindy Bitterman, who was a... Yeah, please, an applause for Cindy Bitterman. Cindy was a muse to Mark and to me and to Jim and to a million people, and she really helped prop all of us up, especially Mark whenever we needed it. That's all I have to say, except that when you speak of this, and you will, be kind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Will. Next, I'd like to bring up, representing the Murphy family, Kate Murphy. She'll be making some words in regards to Mark and his partner for many years, Eddie O'Sullivan. So here's Kate Murphy.
Well, all right then, a family history in 5 minutes. I've got this. Mark loved his family so much. And let me tell you how much Mark's family loved him. Deeply loved him. His father, his mother, his sister, and both of his brothers. They not only loved him, they were immensely proud of him, and they passed that pride down to Mark's 10 nieces and nephews, who passed it down to the great nieces and nephews and grandnieces and nephews. In all the years I've been in this family, I have never heard an argument that involved Mark with his family, and I've never heard a disparaging word said about him. We all loved him. Mark's father began life a poor but tough Irish immigrant son, who later became a lawyer, a city attorney, and even an assistant judge in the famous Nuremberg trials of post-war Germany. Mark's mother was a privileged daughter of the wealthy American-style aristocratic Howe family, who owned the paper mills of Fulton, New York. An unlikely pair to bring into the world one of its greatest jazz singers, true enough, but it was a musical family. His parents were members of the local Methodist church choir, and his father sang the national anthem at sporting events and so forth. So all 4 children grew up singing and playing their various instruments. In Mark's earliest years, he was listening to opera, and by age 7, he had started classical piano lessons. He told me that as a child, he was so painfully shy, he used to hide behind the couch to listen to his family talk. One Sunday, his Uncle Billy pulled him out saying, "Hey, Mark, come listen to this," and took him to the porch to play an Art Tatum record, his introduction to jazz. He said he was so taken by the rhythms and riffs, etc., on that album that he played it over and over until it was worn out. As a very young teenager, Mark filled in for a missing quartet member in his big brother Doc's barbershop quartet. And from there, he began singing Doc's dance band, covering popular artists of the day such as Nat King Cole, June Christie, Anita O'Day, Ella Fitzgerald, and his favorite, Peggy Lee. Mark graduated from Syracuse University in 1953, having majored in music and drama. In 1954, he moved to New York City, where he rented a tiny apartment for $8 a month. By 1968, when I met him, he was living in the upscale Kensington Gardens of London with his successful records, probably sexy too, record store chain owner Eddie O'Sullivan. What a thrill it was to hear Mark's music all over London. Even when we went shopping at Harrods, we heard him on the Muzak. My new husband, Mark's younger brother Kevin, and I stayed in their lovely apartment, and Mark offered us the story of him sleeping on the living room couch while Eddie slept in the bedroom. Me, yeah, right. Kev, well, if he says it's that way, it's that way. A year later, Mark's sister-in-law, Nancy, who was married to Dwight, Doc, we stayed up the whole night, and with the help of some gin, convinced the two brothers of Mark and Eddie's deep commitment to love and to each other. It wasn't so much that the brothers held unkind feelings about gay people as it was, well, he was their brother and they just couldn't believe he was gay. When Mark's mother passed away in 1972, she still hoped he would find a nice girl to marry. She thought that was the only way to true happiness. I think she was the last one standing who thought he was straight. Sometime in the mid-'70s, Mark and Eddie moved to San Francisco. Happily, we lived by in the near Santa Cruz Mountains, so we began the monthly ritual of getting together once a month. Sometimes at our house, but with Mark's busy schedule, most often we went up to San Francisco. Our daughter Heather used to buy evening gowns in the thrift store and wear them up to Mark and Eddie's. She was very little. For dinner. And years later, when she asked me, why did you let me do that, Mom? I said, because you enjoyed it, and your Uncle Mark enjoyed it even more. He always had that aristocratic thing. You should dress for dinner, you know? Yeah. Eddie was the cook, and I usually hung out with him in the kitchen while Kevin and Mark talked in the living room. An avid reader, Eddie was always interested in what my book club was reading that month. Usually he had read it and would give me great tidbits along with his insights to take back to my book club. Sometimes he recommended books, great books, such as Carson McCullers' The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. When we lost Eddie, we were all sad, but Mark was devastated. As years went by, we encouraged him to take another lover. He tried, God bless him, but Eddie was the one true love of his life. The album and the song he wrote, Song for the Geese, was a testament of his belief in mating for life. They were quite the couple, those two. Eddie, ever the pessimist, and Mark, the consummate optimist. I cried when Mark moved back east. He held me in his arms and said not to worry, that we would continue to see each other often. But of course we didn't. Maybe once or twice a year. Those magic months of monthly dinners was over. But this move took him from his West Coast family and allowed him closer to his treasured East Coast family, many of whom are here today. He lived his life with more love and passion than most of us can even imagine, and inspired passion in each of us. His nephew, Mark Edmund Murphy, was huge the last years of Mark's life. Did much to care for him. The buying of that home was not an easy deal. Mark had a reversed mortgage, and it was no small thing to pay that off. And so the whole family, thanks you, Mark, for all that you did, and all those trips to New Jersey and rushing back from Europe and everything. Awesome, thank you. So Mark inspired us all, gave us passion through his voice, and he'll be remembered and celebrated by us always. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate Murphy. Next, I'd like to bring up a young man that I met just a short time ago, but it was a profound effect. We met at a house concert in Brooklyn, and he was there singing, a student in Graz, Austria, and he really wanted to meet Mark, and we went out to the actor's home to meet him. It was towards the end of Mark's life, and he started singing a song to Mark, who was quite ill in his last number of months, and for the first time in quite some time, Mark opened his mouth, tried to sing, orchestrated along with this young man, and it changed his life, it changed my life. 3 weeks later, I was on tour with that young man throughout Europe, and Mark passed away 2 days, or actually the day that the tour started, and we dedicated the tour to Mark. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up a man who studied in Graz with Dina DeRose and with Sheila Jordan. Certainly that European connection is very important because Sheila was so important in the jazz scene in Europe, as is Jay Clayton and Mark Murphy. There's an amazing scene of people out in Graz, Austria, carrying on the American jazz traditions. This young man is no exception. He's won the Best Young Artist Award for Downbeat 2013. Please welcome to the stage, in a mini tribute to Eddie O'Sullivan, Daniel Chachia singing Exactly Like You.
Someone exactly like you. Why should we spend money on a movie show or two when nobody does the love scenes exactly like you? You make me feel so grand, I wanna hand the world to you. You make me understand each foolish little scheme. I'm screaming, and the dreams I'm dreaming. Now I know why Mother taught me to be true. She meant me for someone exactly like you. Pick it up, baby, Babro bado bado baso pleno bedada. Babro bado babro bado babro bado baseo de boy bedada. Wow. Chadu dadu badu do babro bado ba. Still did bado ba ba ya do ba da da bado no bado no da 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 da. Baba ya do ba da ba ba da ba.
been waiting, and I know why I've been blue. I prayed each night for someone exactly like you. Why should we spend money on a movie show or two when nobody does those love scenes like you? You make me feel so grand. I wanna have the world to you. You make me understand each foolish little scheme. I'm scheming and a dream I'm dreaming. Now I know why Mother taught me to be true. She meant me for someone exactly like you. Exactly like you. Yes, 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 exactly like you. Exactly like you. Exactly like you. Exactly like
Daniel Čachia, all the way from Graz, Austria. Thank you, Daniel. Next, I'd like to bring up a very dear lady to me. She met Sheila and Mark back when she was just 18 at the old Page 3 downtown in the Village where Sheila was singing. It was a very interesting club. Maybe you'll say a couple words about that later, Sheila. But Carol Fredette has been wowing us all for many a year. She's terrific at what she does. She has a special panache with Brazilian material. Carol Fredette is all you need in a jazz singer, she thinks, swings, and phrases like a creative instrumentalist. Yet her way with words captures the essence of a lyric. Dan Morgenstern, author, jazz historian, and critic. Please welcome to the stage, doing Fotografia, Carol Fredette.
Eu, você, nós dois, aqui neste terraço, à beira-mar. O sol já vai cair no seu olhar. Parece a voltar embora. Você quer ir embora, a tarde cai, em cores se desfaz. Escureceu, o sol caiu no mar e uma meia-luz lá baixo se acendeu. You and I, we two alone here in this terrace by the sea. The sun is going down, and in your eyes I see the burning colors of the sea. It's time for you to go, the day is done, and shadows stretch their arms to bring the night. The sun falls in the sea, and down below a window light we see just you and me. You and I, we two, alone here in this bar, with dimming lights, a full and rising moon comes from the sea. And soon the bar will close for you and me. But there will always be a song to tell, a story that you and I cannot dismiss. The same old story of desire, and suddenly that kiss, aquele beijo Give me vision. That kiss. That kiss. That kiss.
Carol Fredette. Thank you, Carol. I keep looking at these wonderful photographs. I want to thank Chuck Mancuso and Bruce Fox at Buffalo State College. Over 1,000 photographs from Chuck's collection. He was my professor. That's how I met Mark, through that man, Chuck, who's there with Mark. And the first concert I ever produced was for Mark. Mark introduced me to Sheila. That was the second show I ever produced. So it's like a big homecoming here. But Mark and there we are together. Mark and Ernestine Anderson did the first serious tribute to Harold Arlen in his native hometown of Buffalo, New York in 1980, I believe it was. And we just lost Ernestine a couple of days ago. So maybe we can have a brief round of applause for her and Mark's efforts. To have American popular song or jazz music presented in Philharmonics as serious music was an uphill battle for many artists, and now all these pops programs that we see around the country are sort of accepted, but it was very difficult to get non-classical music into Philharmonic halls, and Mark was a leader. It took 3 years, I heard, to get that project together, even in Harold Arlen's own hometown. Next, I'd like to bring up a lady who, the doyenne of the North Square, we call her. I met her through Mark Murphy, who would oftentimes stay at the Washington Square Hotel. And Mark would call me up and says, "You got to hear this lady. Come down. I want you to meet me for brunch. Come to the North Square at the Washington Square Hotel." And this lady holds court there, amongst many other rooms throughout the town. But she really connects to everything she sings and makes it come alive and sound new. In this day of young, wannabe jazz singers, Roz Corral is the real deal, according to Fred Hirsch. And Roz always goes to the heart of a song, says Mark Murphy. Won't you please welcome her, Roz Corral. And I forgot to mention Sean Smith will be joining her on bass. Let's give a warm round of applause for Brandy Disterhalf. Thank you, Brandy. I want to say a couple of things about Sean briefly. Sean was on Mark's Song for the Geese album, which Mark considered his favorite album of all of his recordings. He was composing with Mark until Mark passed away. You'll hear Song for the Geese later on in the program, and Mark co-wrote that with Sean, as well as a number of other songs. Let's give Sean Smith a nice warm round of applause.
Happy birthday, Mark. We celebrate you today and always, always. 1, 2, 3. Maybe you'll destroy me, but what a way to go. Maybe you'll enjoy me, but what a way to go. The moment we met, I knew we could never be just friends. The magic we made the kind that never ends, never ever ends. Maybe you will leave me, but what a way to go. Desert me and deceive me, but what a way to go. We may last a lifetime, or we may only catch the glow. I need you, I want you, I love you so. But what a way to go. Maybe you believe me, but what a way to go. Desert me and deceive me, but what a way to go. We may last a lifetime, or we may only catch the glow. I need you, I want you, I love you so. But what a way to go. What a way to go.
Roz Corral. Next, I'd like to bring to the stage a man who has won no less than 14 downbeat critics polls, excuse me. You all know him. I'm sure you love him. He is Kurt Elling.
I have to say that Mark saved my life on a handful of occasions, both when he was present and he was on recording. The one I remember that comes to mind, I was very, very sick with a virus at Birdland, and I very foolishly showed up for the gig anyway to try to sing, and I had no I should have just been horizontal and done for the week. And Mark was at the bar with some of his very loyal friends, traveled in a little pack, and there he was, my great hero. And I walked over to Mark as the piano was taking a solo, and I said, "Mark, I can hardly sing. I have 5 notes. Please save my gig." And Mark said, but I have a drink here. I said, I'll pay for your drink, Mark. He said, I'm just joking, boy. Of course I will save your gig. And he walked over to the band and he laid this out. I'll close my eyes to everyone but you. And when I do, I will see you standing there. I'll lock my heart to any other caress. I'll never say yes to a new love affair. I'll close my eyes to everything they say. If you're not there, if you're not there to share each lovely, lovely day, and through the years, those moments when we're apart, I'll close my eyes and see you with my
Kurt Elling. Thank you, Kurt. Our next speaker has been delighting us on the air for many years. His show, Singers Unlimited, is a hipster's delight, according to Rosanna Vitro. And he's been honored with the Willis Conover Marion McPartlin Award for Excellence in Jazz Broadcasting from the Jazz Journalists Association. Michael is also a senior contributor to Downbeat magazine since 1969. In 1997, Michael Bourne produced 4 CD collections of Mark Murphy songs for 32 Jazz. He has done numerous tributes to Mark. We thank him so much for that. If you tuned in on Sunday, he did about an hour and a half, great tribute to Mark. And if you're a fan of jazz singing, every Sunday, WBGO is the place to be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. to listen to Michael Bourne. Please welcome him.
I met Mark Murphy in the mid-'70s. Joe Fields asked me to write notes for the album Mark Murphy Sings on that very first track, Mark's vocalese of Red Clay, that the Royal Bobsters are going to be singing. And the first question I asked in the first interview, of so many through the years, not to count all the conversations, but the first question was, what is your definition of a jazz singer? And Mark said, a jazz singer is a singer who sings jazz. I was young then, and impressionable. And anyway, he elaborated, and to this day, at 40 years more, I've been still quoting that interview, him talking about jazz and about singing. And he was always a delight. And there was a personal footnote to that, because I observed that Mark's picture on the first Muse album, I said, didn't look like you very much. It was, his hair was straight, and now his hair was curly. And Mark said, it's because I got a perm. And I thought, that's so cool. Because I'd always wanted curly hair. And he looked like a pirate. I mean, it was this dark red-brown curls with the mustache. He looked, I'm not talking Victor McLaughlin pirate, I'm talking Tyrone Power pirate. He looked really good. And I thought, I got a perm. So I got a perm. Some of you knew me then. For several years, I was sort of curly, more Victor McLaughlin than Tyrone Power. But I was talking to somebody, and I was having a mental block. I know it was one of you. But I was talking to somebody, and now I remembered as I walked up here, it was Rosanna. I said, I got my hair curled because of Mark. And Rosanna leaned across and said, you know it's a wig. So anyway, Mark influenced me in many other ways. He's influenced and inspired and amazed and amused all of us. One way is that for me, I still catch myself speaking in a way, and you'll hear it in all these weird things I do on the radio, but I'll elongate a phrase, or I'll almost say something in legato, and then suddenly there's this staccato, and I repeat words and phrases, and it's just from Mark. It's like when he's singing to Sheila on Where You At, it's like, maybe that was it. Maybe that was it. Maybe that was it. I do this all the time. And he's in my DNA in that way, and he's in the DNA of every singer here and every singer who sings jazz in the world. And certainly the definition of a jazz singer is Mark Murphy. And speaking of the world, I was in Paris, and Mark was singing in Paris. And he was singing at a club called Alligators. And being in Paris, it was called Alligators. And they didn't have tables and chairs, they had sofas. I mean, sofas everywhere. It was like Jennifer convertibles with, for a jazz joint or something. And Mark sang, and he sang vocalese, and he scattered, and he told stories. And I realized he didn't sing any standards. He didn't sing any Cole Porter songs. And so I went up to him afterwards, and I said, you didn't sing any, he sang all jazz songs. You didn't sing any standards, any of the American popular songbook. And Mark said, well, I'm here, and I'm here, and here, not everybody speaks English, but everybody speaks jazz. Mark Murphy spoke jazz.
Michael Bourne. We just need a moment to set the stage up for our next artist. They're an extraordinary bunch, and anybody who was at Birdland, was it this year or was it last year? I've lost track of time. Was it this past September? What an extraordinary 5 or 6 nights of music at Birdland, where the Royal Bobsters project brought to life so many of our great Bopsters. Mark was originally on the album and was unable to make it, but Andy Bay filled in for him, and Annie Ross and John Hendricks and Bob Duro were all part of it, and it was just an incredible event. The Royal Bobsters, extraordinary. The Royal Bobsters project vividly makes the case for a revival of the art form of vocalese, Alan Morrison of Downbeat. One of the vocal jazz happenings of 2015, says Michael Bourne, and I think the stage is set up for them, so won't you please welcome the Royal Bobsters, Amy London, Dylan Pramuk, Holly Ross, Diamond Meader, Sean Smith, and joining us from St. Louis, he's on the album, and he's here with us tonight, Steve Schmidt, Mark Murphy's longtime piano player in St. Louis. Welcome.
Thank you very much. We are so delighted to be here, and I know we've got so many people to hear from tonight, but I just want to give a shout out to a very special few people. I am so honored and so thrilled that I got to be such good friends with Mark in the last 6 years of his life. It was so great to be with him. He was so much fun. We laughed our butts off all the time, and we sang, and we just had a great time. But I just have to thank the Actors Fund Home in Englewood. They took excellent care of him. And Wendy Oxenhorn at the Jazz Foundation was amazing. The nursing staff, Mark's doctors and his nursing staff were incredible at the Actors Fund Home. His nephew, Mark Murphy, worked tirelessly to take care of Mark, to do all the hard stuff, the paperwork and all the hard stuff, and driving back and forth from Pennsylvania. Mark, thank you so much. You were amazing with your uncle. And there's one more person that I want to give a really special thank you to. She schlepped in from Queens every Saturday to get on the bus in front of Sardi's and schlep out to Englewood every single Saturday that she could, unless she was sick, to be with Mark, to bring him his precious Royals magazines. He loved to read about the Royals, to bring his books, CDs, chocolates, little bears, rings. Francesca, Miano, where are you, Chachia? She's been running around helping all day. Chachia, where are you? She'll be up speaking later. Anyway, this woman was so devoted to Mark. She was with him every Saturday for years, and I love her very much. She was devoted to him like a daughter, and she deserves a special thank you. So Chachia, wherever you are, you were standing right there before, thank you very much. And here is Mark's lyric on Freddie Hubbard's Red Clay.
Screen door slapping somewhere on a side porch, a sleepy morning way out in the boondocks. Stories are being told on the red clay.
On red clay. Oh, red clay's where we came from to begin with. And when we're going, we got the split. Sounds are being dug on the red clay. Some being dug every day on the red clay. evening, you watch the roses climb out of their earth beds. Life is being lived on the red clay.
Life on red clay. Smoothing down my baby when he's tired out. I tell him fun things and watch him start smiling. Nobody being sad on my red clay. No being sad when you stay on my red clay. Your move, my move, Jenny. He moves, stay, move, dig, me, dig. Clay's alive, son. So what you do when you're sitting there goofy?
To do on the red. Oh, there's a lot to do on the red clay. Mark and Freddie, baby, all together now.
Steve Schmidt from Cincinnati, Ohio. Sean Smith. Mamo on drums. Darman Meader, Holly Ross, Dylan Pramuk, and I'm Amy London. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
The Royal Bobsters, and next to introduce Francesca, we have Wendy Oxenhorn.
So this next man was singing opera in Italy, and then he heard Mark Murphy and found him and became one of his students in Graz years ago. And it was Mark who told him to come to New York. And I ended up meeting Francesco, who introduced me to jazz, introduced me to the harmonica. We ended tragically. It was fabulous. And then I ended up helping all the people he had introduced me to. So Francesco also is the person who would take Mark out. Every week, he would kidnap him from the nursing home and take him on adventures and down to the village and to get his magazines and his fabulous life. And thank you so much. And I want to just thank also Elisa is here. Elisa and Joe from the Jazz Foundation. She took care of him for years. And our Deputy Director, Joe Petroselli. So here's Francesco Pini doing Nature Boy.
Very strange, enchanted boy. They say he wandered very far, very far. Over land and sea, a little shy and sad away, but very wise was he. And then one day, a magic day passed my way, and while we spoke, many things, fools and kings. This is sad to me. The greatest thing you ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. The greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. This is for you. This was for you, Mark.
Thank you, Francesco. Next, I'd like to introduce James Gavin. According to Liz Smith's review of Stormy Weather, I wish I could do justice to this book. I cannot. It is impossible to convey its power. Magnificent, gripping, marvelously written. And his book, Intimate Lives, greatly changed my life. I became a great fan of the golden age of New York nightlife due to this man. So, very profound effect. He was a great friend to Mark for many years. Please welcome author James Gavin.
When I first met Mark in 1984, he was sleeping on the fold-out sofa of Charlie Cochran, who many of us know. Charlie Cochran, the wonderful pianist-singer. Mark wasn't sleeping when I met him, but close. He was so tired all the time. Mark and Charlie became bosom buddies. They were in each other's lives for a very long time. Charlie lives in West Palm Beach, but he sends the following words. I caught Mark 3 times in the late 50s, including once when he accompanied himself on piano. I remember one night I brought Lee Wiley, with whom I was out on the town to see him in a club in the village. I wish I could remember the name. Ronnie White would remember. He was there, as I recall. Do you remember that, Ronnie? The show place. Bingo. The whole time Mark sang, Ms. Wiley had this puzzled, frowning expression on her face. That was probably the result of fatigue and many hours of libations. I told Mark for years that it had nothing to do with his singing, but I'm afraid he never believed me. A dozen years elapsed, and I was playing at a hotel in Toronto. Down the street at the Cave Abab, a jazz club / dance bar, Mark Murphy was appearing and packing them in. I rushed over after my gig and watched him, enthralled. The year was 1971, and there he stood amidst tables and dancing patrons, his hair down to his shoulders and in mod attire, singing the tunes of the day, like A Song for You and My Way. The latter refreshingly performed at breakneck speed. He moved with a dancer's grace. Over the last decade, Mark had opened up and blossomed before my eyes. There's so much to remember about him. He adored Hedy Lamarr and prided himself in owning videos of every one of her movies. I recall vividly his mirth watching Joan Crawford's legendary interview with John Springer at Town Hall and seeing Yvonne DiCarlo crooning "I'm Still Here" in the Broadway show Follies. I haven't mentioned his singing. What is there to say that hasn't already been said? He was the consummate jazz singer. His style and sound were virile and yet tender and vulnerable. Above all, there was an absence of cliché. His influences, both as a person and musician, will stay with me always. Well, next up, she was Mark's sister in spirit, and she knew him longer, I would say, than almost anyone in this church tonight. Please welcome Sheila Jordan.
Oh my goodness. I had a beautiful poem, but I lost it. Mark, you're with me. Mark is with us. I feel that. The one thing about Mark is he would drive on Thanksgiving from Pennsylvania in his white truck to my house for Thanksgiving dinner because he loved my turkey. He loved I didn't think it was so great, but he loved it. One of the last things I said to him before he passed was, I'm gonna make you a turkey dinner. And he said, I said, in heaven. For Mark, many, many years ago, I sang this composition in a club in the Page 3 where I had first heard Mark sing. I remember it was so many years ago, and he came in and he got on the stage, and I said, who in the world is that good-looking dude, man? This guy was so good-looking. And he sang Willow Weep for Me. That was my first introduction. This song I'm going to sing was, somebody spoke about it tonight, and I dedicate it to my buddy, my friend, who I'll love forever. It's called Ballad of the Sad Young Men. Sing a song of sad young men, glasses full of rye. All the news is bad again. Kiss your dreams goodbye. All the sad young men sitting at the bars and knowing neon nights, missing all the stars, all the sad young men drifting through the town, drinking up the night, trying not to drown. above, and all the sad young men play at making love, misbegotten moon, shine for sad young men. Let your gentle light guide them home again. The sad young men. Mark Murphy, you will always be my spiritual young brother. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. You're standing up. I got something to tell you. Sing. You know what? I'm feeling very emotional, but I gotta tell you, we gotta do this. Are you ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mark Murphy. Happy birthday to who? Mark Murphy. Thank you very much.
He's been the producer here at St. Peter's of Midday Jazz for 10 years, but he's been a cornerstone of jazz and cabaret in this city for a lot longer than that. Please welcome Ronnie White.
I'm going to sing a song about a club that was in Greenwich Village about 1955, 56. Maybe it lasted to 58. It was called the Cafe Bohemia on Barrow Street. And Miles Davis played there. It was one of the first places he played with his quartet. Oscar Pettiford was in charge of the music, more or less. And Cannonball Adderley worked there. It was an amazing place. I was fortunate enough to be there. I was very, very young. But it was a very special place, and Oscar Pettiford wrote a song called Bohemia After Dark. And for years I wanted to write a lyric, so finally I was able to figure it out, and my humble attempt, and I'm honored to say that Mark grabbed it and recorded it right away, and so did Amy London, and I'm very grateful. Bohemia After Dark. The cats would blow down at Bohemia, the place to go, Cafe Bohemia. It was a lark, the lights were low at the Bohemia, swinging at Bohemia after dark. The sounds were cool at the Bohemia, the horns were dual at the Bohemia. They made their mark, the beat was cruel at the Bohemia, jamming at Bohemia after dark. It was a little Greenwich Village spot, but in its heyday it was really hot. And you could drop in for a couple of belts, but when it was there, it was somewhere else. But now there is no more Bohemia. It's just a legend, the Bohemia, a memory to heart. But in my heart, there's still Bohemia, grooving at Bohemia after dark. Would blow at the Bohemia, the place to go, Cafe Bohemia, it was a lark. The lights were low at the Bohemia, swinging at Bohemia after dark. The sounds were cool, the beat was cruel, the horns would do, jamming at Bohemia after dark. It was a little Greenwich Village spot, but in its heyday it was really hot. And you could drop in for a couple of belts, but when it was there, it was somewhere else. But now there is no more Bohemia. It's just a legend, the Bohemia, a memory to heart. But in my heart there's still Bohemia. There's grooving at Bohemia after dark. There's cooking, jamming, grooving. That joint is really moving. The one thing that they're proving is it's a place to park. Cafe Bohemia, Bohemia after dark.
I went to see her 2 Tuesdays ago at the Metropolitan Room, where she's been in residence for, 9, 10 years, and she was burning. I have never enjoyed Annie Ross as much as I'm enjoying her in 2016, and she's here tonight. Please welcome Annie Ross.
Sitting with Mark and Blossom Deary in a little room. It was small because we had no money. And we used to play, rather Blossom would play and Mark and I would sing. And this was one of his favorite songs. It's Billy Strayhorn, Words and Music. Okay. Picture Paris. Picture noontime in Paris. And there's a woman who has had a few, and she wants to sing. But there's no one in the bar. It's too early. But she goes into a bar, she orders a drink. She has a sip, and she starts to sing. I used to visit all the very gay places, those come what may places, where one relaxes on the axis of the wheel of life to get the feel of life from jazz and cocktails. The boys I knew had sad and sullen gray faces with distingué traces. When they would be there, you could see where they'd been washed away by too many through the day. 12 o'clock tales. Then you came along with your siren song to tempt me to madness. I thought for a while that your poignant smile was filled with the sadness of a great love for me. Oh yes, I was wrong again. I was wrong. Is lonely again, and only last year everything seemed so sure. Now life is awful again, a trough full of hearts could only be a bore. A week in Paris might ease the bite of it. All I care is to smile in spite of it. I'll forget you, I will, while yet you are still burning inside my brain. Romance is mush, stifling those who strive. I'll live a lush life in some small dive, and there I'll be where I'll rot with the rest of those whose lives are lonely too.
One of tonight's musician guests had to bow out because his leg is in a cast. Richie Cole, one of the most important musicians in Mark's career, the alto saxophonist who was by his side on Bop for Kerouac and on the road a lot in the 1970s and 80s. Richie sends this message. A month ago, I was in an accident and will not be able to travel for a while. I don't know what hurts more, my broken leg or not being able to be there. There will never be another Mark Murphy. It was an honor and a privilege to have worked with him for all those years. He took the music to a whole new level of creativity. Thank you, Mark, for giving your one-of-a-kind music to the world. Love, Richie. Amy London mentioned earlier a remarkable young woman named Francesca Miano, known to all of us who love her as Chachia. And Mark seldom knew a truer, bluer friend in his life than Chachia. Here she is to tell us all about it.
I hope you can hear me because, as you can tell, I'm getting laryngitis. Well, anyway, forgive me, I'm going to refer to my notes. I am neither a singer nor an instrumentalist, so my experience with Mark Murphy is somewhat different from many of those you will have heard today. When I entered the Iridium in June 2004, I never dreamed it would lead to a friendship that grew ever deeper with the passing years. Mark was just one of the many singers whom I enjoyed hearing, though I had never been to one of his gigs. To say that this experience was life-altering is an understatement. The Mark I came to know had many traits which might be unexpected by those who only related to him as a singer. He was the man who hipped me to the History Channel show American Pickers because he was into antiques. As you heard from another speaker, he was obsessed with watching movies, especially classics with Hedy Lamarr, Joan Crawford, and Eleanor Powell. Mark did not just read novels by Kerouac, but also loved to dig into mysteries. When I gave him a copy of a jazz mystery set in Vegas, he said that Bill Moody's description of the music scene reminded him of his gig at the Four Queens. He was fascinated with extraterrestrials and folks who had served in World War II. Plus, he never ceased to love nature, in particular, flowers, trees, and bodies of water. The thing I always remember most about Mark, however, was that the music was constantly inside him, as regular as breathing. I was told he once sang to an eagle flying over his log cabin. Yes, folks, he once lived in a log cabin. I personally witnessed him scatting to a tiny frog. Mark would make up songs while crossing the street or waiting for a bus. On one occasion in 2013, he sat at his regular table in the dining room of the Actors' Home and sang to me the entire first verse of You Are My Sunshine perfectly. Even when illness began to overtake him, Mark never lost his feeling for the music. I would play him CDs and DVDs of singers and instrumentalists, ranging from Miles and Maria Callas to performers new to him. He would react in one of two ways, either smiling broadly with his eyes open and dancing with delight, or else he would close them and seem to drink in what he was hearing. If the tracks were from his own albums, Mark would move his hands as though he was performing on the stage. He would sometimes move his lips, singing silently to himself. On the Saturday before he passed away, I asked him what he wanted to hear, and he responded, "You know what I like." So I put on Maiden Voyage by Herbie and Speak No Evil by Wayne. As Mark listened, I looked into his soulful eyes and saw his inner beauty come out. Mark Murphy was a great man, yet so down to earth, a man and a boy simultaneously. Yet in spite of all he went through, he never lost his dignity. It was like being in the presence of a great guru, one who exuded music until he took his last breath.
Mark Edmund Murphy is not only the nephew who took such splendid care from Mark after Mark had gone into the Actors Fun Home, and before then, he is also a bassist who has played with a blues star named Guy Davis. Now, Mark Murphy is said to be the first jazz singer to have sung a song by the Beatles. And here now to perform that song that he recorded in England in 1964, here is Mark Edmund Murphy and Daughters.
Hi, thank you all for coming today to celebrate Mark's artistry and his life. I've got a few words to say before I get my daughters to sing up here, but and we're going to amend Sheila's beautiful song as well. But so many of you wish to sing and speak today, and it was a huge job to organize the event with such a short window we have. The community and family wish to thank Ari Silverstein, Jean-Pierre Leduc for the huge efforts in putting it all together. We as a community and a family also owe Wendy Oxenhorn and Elisa Hafkin and the Jazz Foundation of America a huge debt of gratitude. The foundation supports us here today and has been there for Mark and so many others in their transitions in later life. A mere thank you does not seem to come close. Mark is literally a child of music. Parents helped. His father, Dwight Murphy Sr., came in to direct the church choir, while Margaret Howe, who was a soprano, paid particularly close attention. We thank the families of Murphy and Howe for their nature and nurture. I'd also like to thank the larger clan for all their support and talents, including the families of Bidwell, Murphy, Howe, Ketchum, Earl, Lorente, Metzger, Hinkhouse, Kirkwood, Lavoie, Van Overen, Kalpikoff, Cook, and Dobek, Purcell, and Rogers. The rainbow is full of beautiful colors, and so is Mark's shirt. And so is the tapestry of Mark's extended family. I'd also like to thank Jordan Stroll and the amazing staff at the Actors Fun Homes in Englewood, New Jersey, including Maria Box, the Director of Nursing, Lucy Seligson and Laura Whyte fronting the social work staff. These people grew to be family. And again to JFA and their association and work with the Englewood Hospital, providing care for so many of our most precious. Thanks also to some who cared for and traveled with Mark, J.P. Leduc, Sarah James, my daughters Molly and Sally Murphy, and their buddy Buck, who drove them from Virginia today. And also to Michael Barsda, who traveled with Mark, but also came to Mark at home in a time of need in transition to life at the Actors Fun Home through the JFA. And a special thanks to Cara Rouche, A.K. Slim, Catherine Dupuis, who helped the transition process and all the paperwork, my mother, Nancy Murphy, and my sister, Martha Murphy, Patty Purcell, who also came to aid in Mark's home, and some of the wonderful folks who came to visit him. There's so many, I can't possibly name all the people, but I thank you all for coming to visit him while you could. I was given the unenviable task of okaying people who came to visit Mark at the Actors Fun Home, and I realized very quickly that Mark knew so many more thousands and thousands of people that I would ever be able to know. But it was my job to say, yes, this person's okay, that person's okay, as you came to visit him. And I thank you for that. Marcella Maya, Wendy, JP, Amy London, Francesca, Sheila Jordan, Nita Lobis. Thank you for your extra special help, and also the person who I couldn't have done any of that work in supporting Mark with without the help of my partner, Louise Kirkwood. Thank you very much. I have a fan letter that I'd like to read, one of so many, but this one kind of touched me. It's dated April 2nd, 2015. Dear Mr. Murphy, you don't know me. Nevertheless, you've been an important part of my journey, my life journey for many, many years. My purpose in writing is simple. Thank you most sincerely for the deep pleasure and emotional satisfaction you have given me since I was a teenager. I first met you in a little jazz record store in Auckland, New Zealand in 1959. I worked there 2 nights a week and rarely took home any money. Instead, I spent my modest pay on records. The first record I ever bought there was an album called Ra by a young man named Mark Murphy, whose name I wasn't familiar with, but whose music I loved immediately. Since that first meeting, my love and respect for your art has only grown, and I have collected almost everything you have ever recorded. You have graciously signed several albums for me at a performance you gave in Melbourne, Australia, at a small club in St. Kilda, long before my wife and I came to live in Manhattan. Why am I telling you this? Perhaps this will answer the question. My precious wife died 5 years ago, and there will never be a day when I don't regret not saying out loud, much more often than I'm sure that she understood, but deserved to hear spoken far more frequently than I ever did. I wish I'd said loud and clear and often how much I appreciated her. Now I never can, but I learned a lesson. I learned that we must express our appreciation for people who are important to us when we have the opportunity. So here and now I express my appreciation of you and your music, for the years of pleasure you've given me, for the sheer aesthetic delight of listening to the rare skill and emotional power you always communicate through every song you have ever sung, for being deeply woven into the soundtrack of my life. Music can truly reach places beyond words. Your music has reached deep into me and into the hearts of many, many others. For that, I thank you. I wish you well, Mr. Murphy. It has been a pleasure having you as a companion in my life. I'm grateful for you. Sincerely, Tony Fisher. I'd like to invite my daughters Molly and Sally Murphy up for a moment, just to share their voices. And Alex, if you'd give us an F sharp when you have a moment, and while we're getting ready, I'd ask you to think about those words of Mark's and greet someone that you don't know with a handshake or even a hug right now in the spirit of Mark. Someone you don't know, because that's what he did. That's what he did every night when he sang. Thank you.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mark. Happy birthday to you. Love you, yeah, yeah, yeah. He loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. He loves you, yeah, 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 yeah. Thank you.
In 1997, Mark released an album that he was very proud of. He was signed briefly to RCA Records, and Mark created this brave experimental album called Song for the Geese. He was especially proud of the title song, which was written by tonight's bass player, Sean Smith. To perform it tonight, we have our band with Sean, but we also have a gorgeous, exotic jazz singer that Mark thought was just terrific, and you all know her as Tessa Souter.
Oh, gosh, what an emotional evening, isn't it? Sheila Jordan, thank you for wringing my throat, screwing it up, absolutely beautiful. Everybody sang so beautifully, thank you. Oh, so I am slightly going to cheat on this lyric. I probably don't need it, but I've got it there just in case, because I don't want to make any mistakes. Mark wrote this, apparently he wrote this lyric for his love of his life, Eddie. So tonight I'm going to sing it for them both. But not this. That was stolen moments. Okay, go. A child, that was me, saw two geese long ago on a bay at dusk. They'd arrive unannounced. A hush fell as we would watch. They'd glide side by side as partners for life, we would guess. From Canada's space to our bay, and then fly home with a meaning's design of a line in the sky, and a love we would learn from their flight. Soon years had passed by. One goose to our bay did did return alone. Still, it would glide, remembering days, summers ago. Then dawn saw it fly, not looking back on the bay, ne'er to return, but the coast seems so empty. This song for the geese is the memory I hold of those days that were young. Now grown old. Sorry, but Sean wanted me to mention his socks, which here are Jazzy Shop socks. Because Mark liked to wear jazzy socks, so Sean is wearing them in his honour. In fact, Sean is extremely dressed up in his honour. I don't think I've ever seen him this dressed up, except for the socks.
Mark's last manager, Jean-Pierre Leduc, is not here tonight. He co-produced this event. He was on his way here and he had to go back home. He sent me a message that explains everything. I wish I could be with all of you today. It's quite surreal to co-produce an event such as this and not to attend. But en route to the airport, I received news of a family emergency and sadly had no choice but to turn back. I first met Mark at the Upstairs Jazz Club in Montreal about a decade ago. I was transfixed, as I imagine all of us were, the first time we heard this man's inimitable artistry. Shortly after that, I started my own company. Sheila Jordan called me to ask if I would consider representing Mark. She explained that rumors had been spreading, completely unfounded, that had led to Mark being out of work. A heartbreaking turn of events, especially for someone who lived and breathed music. In any case, Sheila implored me to call him, and I did, and we started right away. Sure, there were a few presenters that repeated the falsehood that he was finished, that he'd lost it, and this sort of thing. I relished dispelling such rumors. I said, au contraire, he's still got the magic. We have a great band, and I will be traveling with him, so there are no risks. Happily, Mark delivered. Together, we managed to turn things around. The bookings came in swiftly. It was a great pleasure for me to bring joy to his days living in Inglewood with news that we would soon be traveling to London, Paris, Berlin, Istanbul, San Francisco, Montreal, or Quebec City. Even after all the logistical donkey work in each city, when it came to curtain time, I was as moved as anyone in the audience. This was true night after night, city after city. I was stunned by Mark's incredible and fearless risk-taking. The sorely missed George Mesterhazy and I would marvel at Mark's vocal voyages after each show like teenagers. Did you hear what he did after the verse? How did he ever get back from there? But that was one of the marvels of Mark. He was artistically daring and fabulously unpredictable. There are so many stories. I look forward to sharing them all and to hearing yours. We had difficult moments, but most were related to the challenges he was enduring. I will always treasure his sense of humor, his kindness, and his wild streak. Life was an adventure with Mark, quite wild for a man of 8 decades. It was satisfying to have made a difference in his turbulent life when it counted. During my last visit to the actor's home, he was beaming as I approached him, and he said affectionately, taking my arm, "I'm so pleased that your capsule landed safely." Obviously, he thought I'd arrived from another planet, but we all know it was he who did, and that life on Earth is a lot less interesting without him. As for our next guest, none other than John Hendricks said this: "Not many people can master this music being bebop, but Giacomo Gates has. He's an important man." Please welcome Giacomo Gates.
Good evening. Miles Davis wrote Boplicity. Ray Passman and Holly Ross wrote lyrics to it. They called it Bebop Lives. Mark Murphy recorded it, the first one to record it, on Kerouac Then and Now. Forgive my cold, I'm doing the best I can. It began as an experiment, a little new, but with the time cleverly spent, it woke up musical minds, and boy, it sure made a dent. So we know bebop lives. Dizzy Bird and Miles, they did it their way. Swing time people didn't figure it would stay, but they split, wouldn't you know, because the time was passé. And so we know bebop lives. Then there was a cat, and when he started to scat, it made impressions that establishing a school became a popular pastime for bop when in its prime would differentiate the hot from the cool. Second, third generation still blow all the flatted fifths that we certainly know. Like Coco, don't forget 4. Then there's Night in Tunisia. So we know bebop lives. Said little da da. Said little da 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 da. La 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 la. Sweet we do be la 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 de shabba la 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 silly do la ba we do ba we sweet do boo boo ba we da ya la ba ba shake the label de it began as an experiment, a little new, but with the time cleverly spent, it woke up musical minds and boy, it sure made a dent. So we know bebop lives. Dizzy Bird and Miles, they did it their way. Swingtime people didn't figure it would stay, but they still wouldn't, you know, because the time was passé. So we know bebop lives. When there was the cat who then started to scat. It made impressions that establishing a school became a popular pastime for pop when in its prime would differentiate the hot from the cool. Second, third generation still blow all the flatterers that we certainly know. Like Opal, don't forget Bourne, and then there's Night in Tunisia. So we know bebop live. Thank you. Thank you. From Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, Act 3, Scene 2, lines 74 through 108, translated into the hip vernacular by Lord Buckley, recorded by Mark Murphy on Carwag Then and Now, November 1986. Picture this. It's 1952. You're walking down 7th Avenue and a little cat in a tuxedo walks up to you and tells you that Julius Caesar has just been stabbed in the next apartment. Hipsters, flipsters, and finger-popping daddies, knock me your loads. I come to lay Caesar out, not to hip you to him. The bad jazz a man blows wails long after he's cut out, and the grooving is often stashed with his frame. So don't put Caesar down. Swinging Brutus has laid a story on you that Caesar was hungry for power. If it was so, it was a sad drag, and sadly hath this Caesar cat answered it. Here with a pass from Brutus and the other brass, for Brutus is a worthy stud, yea, so are they all worthy studs. I came to wail at Caesar's wake. He was my buddy, and he leveled with me, yet Brutus thinks that he had eyes for power, and Brutus is a solid cat. It is true he has returned with many freaks in chains, and brought them home to Rome, yea, the looty was booty, and hipped the treasury well. Doth thou dig that this was Caesar's groove for the push? When all the cats with the empty kicks have copped out, Caesar hath copped out too, and cried up a storm. To be a world grabber, a stiffer riff must be blown. Without bread, the stud can't even rule an anthill. Yet, Brutus was swinging for the moon. And yea, Brutus is a worthy stud. And all you cats were gassed on the Lupercal when he came on like a king freak. 3 times I laid the kingly wig on him, and thrice did he put it down. Is this the move of a greedy hipster? Yet Brutus said he dug the lick, and a hipper cat has never blown. Some claim that Brutus' story was a gag, but I dug the story was solid. Now I came here to blow, so stay cool while I blow. You all dug him once because you are hip that he was solid? How can you come on so square? Now that he's tapped out of this world, City Hall has flipped and swung to a drunken zoo. And all you cats have goofed to Wig City. So dig me hard. My ticker is in the coffin there with Caesar. And yea, I must stay cool until it flippeth back to me. Hail Caesar, y'all. That's all, y'all.
You should know, if you don't already, that the lyrics to Boplicity that Giacomo sang were written by our own Royal Bobster, Holly Ross. We have a singer next that will be new to many of us. His name is Kenny Wesley, and he was a Montreux competition winner. Wendy Oxenhorn tells me that he is poised to perpetuate the spirit of Mark Murphy. So, Kenny, you've got some high stepping to do. Please welcome Kenny Wesley.
It's an honor to be here. Since I was a child, I always had visions and dreams that I could fly like a bird. And the first time I heard Mark's music, he reminded me that music, true music, has no boundaries, has no limits. And through his music, I really believed that with my voice, I could fly like he did one day. And I'm gonna do Shadow of Your Smile. Little star was far too high. A teardrop kissed your lips, and so did I. Now that I've learned to spring all the joys that love can bring, I will be remembering the shadow of your smile. Like a funny face, a bump of beat on you, we are the way. cover all my dreams and life. Don't look into my eyes, my love, and see all the lovely things you are to me. Our wistful little star, wistful little star is far too high. Teardrop, kiss your lips, and so did I. And when I remember spring, all the joy that love bring, I will be remembering the shadow of your smile. But I remember, when I remember, I will be remembering.
Entering our home stretch here, I'm going to reintroduce tonight's trumpeter, who's had a very interesting history. Itamar Borichov was raised in Jaffa, an integrated Muslim, Jewish, Christian city. And it was there that he fell in love with Arab music and Pan-African music. He has lived in New York City since 2007. What better musician to pair with a woman whom the Village Voice called one of the most adventurous singers in jazz. She is a true long-distance runner that Mark Murphy loved and respected. Please welcome Itamar Borichov and Jay Clayton.
Thank you so much. I was asked to do, there was a request from Ari, and I want to thank him. He requested that I do Beauty and the Beast, Wayne Shorter. Of course, I love Wayne Shorter. I never did this one, but I think it was actually a good choice, and if I do it okay, I'll put it in my repertoire. It's perfect. And I just wanted to say, though, that I don't think it has quite been mentioned yet, but Mark was a wonderful composer and lyricist, and he wrote these. He's so out, right? And I have to say that at one of the concerts we did to celebrate his music, a lot of original music happened, and I didn't know. And Sheila, we got to learn this stuff. Actually, I had a couple of things in my little to-learn folder for years, and he had wrote lyrics to, so maybe I better get down to it. But anyway, this particular one he did speak some lyrics, and so without going on and on, which we all would love to do because it's so easy about Mark, let's do. And thank you for joining, my dear. Mark said, "We see the world through faulty eyes. For some, we fall. For some, we rise. Does beauty mask the beast's disguise? Its size? It lives on lies. This war goes on between the two, the beauty folk, the bistro crew. Each age is clear until the clouds of hate slam shuts the gate. The gate shuts out the power of love light. A new night brings fear. Screams as the dreaming disappears and becomes a nightmare. beast should sleep forever now. Somehow, to none we bow. The land is sweet, the harvest comes. The people sweat and count their sons. But something seems to soil the fun. The sun shines on a gun. The beast lies low, but always waiting, all hating lies deep. Beauty and beast may fall. We'd all been shoved right up against the wall. We see the world through faulty eyes. We see the world through faulty eyes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I mentioned to you earlier that I met Mark in 1984. I was a college boy at the time, and I was writing the book that Ari mentioned about old cabarets, a world that Mark had spent quite a bit of time in. Immediately, Mark showed me what the jazz of his generation and earlier ones was all about. It was not just improvising notes, it was improvising a life and finding your own voice. He hadn't adopted jazz as though he were putting on a cool jacket. He didn't learn it in conservatories or copy it off of records. The life he sang about, the way he sang, the way he behaved, he wasn't making any of this up. It was his thumbprint. It was the product of his strange mind and all his emotional baggage, his goofiness, his restlessness, his anger, his wanderlust, his hilariously bizarre sense of humor, his combativeness, his self-destructiveness, his wildly zigzagging mind, which went to places that my linear journalist's mind could never go. All of that life experience was etched into his voice, and when he sang, he hid none of it. Listening to Bop for Kerouac in my childhood bedroom in Yonkers, I would stare at the album jacket, and I was struck by a quote on the back of it from Jay Landesman, the husband of Fran Landesman. Jay had owned an important cabaret in St. Louis called the Crystal Palace, and he was also a beat guy. He had published a beat magazine in the late 40s called Neurotica. Jay said this about Mark Murphy and Bop for Kerouac. His voice echoes the frustration mixed with eternal hope that so many of us suffered from in those days and that drove so many of us crazy. Frustration mixed with eternal hope. That was Mark. In the early years of our friendship, I saw him maybe once a year when he would blow into town to play Jays or Fat Tuesdays. On the road was truly Mark's story. He traveled almost all the time. It was a necessity of his hand-to-mouth life. Buses, trains, planes, airports. He would stay at the Vanderbilt Y, MCA, where he used to stay when he was around 60. He spoke all the time about wanting to get off the road, about how exhausting it was. But when he was off the road, he wanted to get back on it. He had insatiable curiosity. He absorbed wisdom everywhere and used it in his work. His homes in San Francisco and Pennsylvania were full of books. He loved Russian history, beat history, gay history. He was always searching for information about life. He was always looking for something that would make him happy. He had endless ideas for new albums, and Joe Fields of Muse and High Note Records, I feel, deserves a lot of credit for letting Mark do whatever he wanted to do on record. Mark made about 45 albums, not counting compilations. And he was always longing for the big breakthrough release that would bump him up to the top level. What he really wanted was to be as far out as he desired and be as big as Tony Bennett. He had hoped that his Night Mood album of Yvonne Lean's songs would do it for him in the 80s. And then he hoped that Song for the Geese would do it for him in the 90s. And then in 2005, he recorded a beautiful album that many of you know on Verve called Once to Every Heart that was produced by Till Brenner, the terrific German trumpet player. And Mark hoped that that would be his Shirley Horn Here's to Life breakthrough. It wasn't. But he kept hoping, and on he went on his way back on the road. I have postcards from Mark from all over the world. They're usually just short messages that he had scribbled on the fly. But one letter that he sent me was different. It's from 1991, and it goes on for pages. He was congratulating me in great detail on the publication of my first book, which I had just sent him. Not long before this, Eddie had died. They had been together for 25 and a half years. And this is some of what he wrote. Jim dear, and then in parentheses he wrote, homesick in München. I have to travel the fucking globe to keep body and soul together. Something that broke my little Eddie's heart, and mine too, but evidently kept me going. I was away so much. I must say I will never recover from his passing. Something died in me too. I have to fight each day to continue. Singing, of course, is what kept him going. He had an unswerving sense of purpose in life, of knowing what he was put on this earth to do, and of following his heart at all costs. He shared that conviction with me for 31 years in an often fatherly way. Returning to that letter, Mark also wrote this. What a fucking life. I should have been born smart. How did I survive? Maybe I am smart after all. But as for your book, you are a writer. Write some more. For whatever they're worth, my compliments on the success of your fine work. More later. I must teach today. Thank God I found out I can teach. Peace and love, M. For our last performance, please welcome back Kurt Elling and Sheila Jordan.
Either one.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to stand? No.
We're just gonna quickly do something that I recorded with Mark, called One for Junior. And I remember him teaching me this at my house. Mark, where are you at? One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sheila, baby, where you at? Where's the natural habitat? Baby, baby, I've gotta go there.
That's what Mark sang. Where's the place? Which direction should I face? Where's the place? I gotta go there, I gotta go there, I gotta go there.
I was doing fine. Then I got got your call. I've been searching and searching, but I can't find you nowhere at all.
Where you at?
EC.
Excuse me before I flip my hat.
It's a nice hat.
Where you at? I gotta go there. You know, you
bridge.
Give me the worst. Are you having fun?
Always with you, darling.
On the run. There he's on the telephone. He's calling.
Hey, I was doing fine. Then I got your call. I've been searching and searching and searching, and I can't get you nowhere at all.
Where you at? Where's your natural habitat?
Baby, baby, hey, gotta go there.
Oh yeah.
Gotta go there.
Oh yeah.
Got to go there.
Speaking of where?
Where?
This is what Mark said to me on the record.
What'd he say?
Well, I was looking for you.
Always.
We were going to go up and we didn't want to keep Ray waiting.
Well, he was on the corner over here, and you said you was over there.
I'm going northwest.
I was going southwest.
To City College.
To City College?
That's where I was taking him to do a workshop.
Lucky kids.
Weren't they lucky?
They were lucky. They didn't pay nothing.
They never forgot. Yeah. You know what I said to him?
What did you say to him?
I said, Mark, hey Mark, how could you not see me? I'm so gorgeous. At least I was then.
He said, my name's Murphy. Not Murky.
Murphy.
Not Murphy.
What an Irish name.
What I thought was,
I'll never be the same.
never be the same.
Never ever.
None of us will be the same.
Murphy, I'll think of Mark.
Never gathered into one group again.
My heart.
Never all of
Where
us.
you at?
Mark's not here.
Yes, he is.
Not in the flesh.
Spirit go.
He's here.
We better go.
We better go get Mark.
Where you at?
We better get Mark.
Where you at?
Mark's here.
Where you at?
Hey, Mark here.
End of the show.
Hey, Mark's the end of the show. Sexy. We gotta go there.
Kurt Elling, Sheila Jordan, Kurt Elling. Yeah. Sheila Jordan, Kurt Elling. Mark is here. Don't you feel his presence among us? We have one last song before you go. We're going to let Mark have the last word, but just some final thank yous. Again, thank you to Chachia, who put that wonderful slideshow together. Thank you to Marlene Weller. Marlene, thank you for all your help in assembling much of the memorabilia that you saw upstairs earlier. Thank you to the Murphy family. Thank you to all the artists who performed here tonight. Thank you to the Jazz Foundation. We're going to play Mark's most famous number. You can all join in from your seat, but let's hear Mark singing Stolen Moments. We all stole a little bit of time to be here tonight.